This is Jody Roundhouse. I'm going to, as quickly as possible, explain the Normandy invasions of France during World War II, D-Day, also known as Operation Overlord. The Allies, namely, Britain and the United States, had put forth a good deception plan in which they made it seem to the German High Command that they were going to land here, Port Calais. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but from Dover, that they were going to land here, and they actually made a fake army here with Patton controlling it. Rommel was put in command of what was so-called the Atlantic Wall. And Rommel, having seen our amphibious operations in Africa and in Sicily and in Italy, he saw that Normandy, even though it was far away from here, where they thought they were going to be invaded, he said, you know what, let me take a trip down here and see our defenses. So he went down there, he saw that they were woefully unprepared for an attack in this type of channel terrain. If you zoom in, see how the land dips down? And on this map, it's actually labeled Omaha Beach, Utah Beach. I circled it, but you can't see it. The landings themselves were undeniably the most advanced undertaking that humanity has ever undertaken. Logistically, militarily, in terms of supplies, we were unmatched. Now keep in mind, this was in the year 1944. June 6, 1944. By that time, the Soviets over on the Eastern Front had been mauling, the Germans and the Soviets had been mauling each other up for quite some time at this point in the war. And so the Germans were already having trouble, but by this point in the war, Hitler had taken over his military because he thought he was brilliant militarily. He overrode the generals who had brought him such stunning victories in the first part of World War II. He said, you know what, I know better than you. And he went ahead and he took control. And because of that, we were allowed basically to land unmolested in Normandy. Now, the different beaches, the Canadians were there, the British were there. The British put up 200,000 troops or so. The United States put up about the same, 200,000 troops or so. Not all on the first day, although the scope of the battles are massive. Or rather, the scope of the battle at hand is massive. The shipping alone, if you look at the English Channel, it's not very large. That's why they thought that the invasion was going to come from here. That was the obvious place. And like I said, we had a deception campaign where we basically tricked the Germans, even the high command to a large degree, into thinking, yeah, that is probably where they're going to land. But Rommel came in. This is the largest effort in the history of humanity, invading Europe amphibiouusly. We had 7,000 to 8,000 ships, depending on the sources that you use. We began the invasion on June 6, 1944, in the dawn before the sun came. We began with an intense carpet bombing by thousands of Allied aircraft, and we also opened up with a naval bombardment. We had an entire fleet, 8,000 ships. The people on the German defenders on Normandy, especially in Omaha Beach, the guys shooting machine guns down from pillboxes, there's an anecdotal report of one of those gunners who said that he began the day with his MG42, Hitler's buzzsaw machine gun, the best machine gun of World War II, the MG42, ironically. And he had 12,000 rounds of ammunition, and he said that he began firing at dawn, and by the afternoon he was still shooting. We lost on that day 10,000 men killed. Again, depending on the sources that you look at. The United States landed 150,000 troops in one day. The weather was poor, but not poor enough. So they could still make the crossing, but these troops that landed, like think of the guys in Saving Private Ryan, these guys who landed were seasick. So they landed, they're getting shot by machine guns and artillery, because the entire beaches, they had been pre-sighted by the Germans. They're getting shot, but they're also seasick. So the Wehrmacht, the German military, was seen as this, quote, mythical beast. We put forth the largest invasion force ever assembled in history, arguably greater than Germany's Operation Barbarossa against here, launched in 1941 against Russia. That was a land invasion. This was a seaborne invasion, bigger than Okinawa. That's right, Alan. Okinawa. Anyhow, let me look at this here. Hitler refused to believe that the Normandy landing was real. He thought that it was a feint attack, that we were going to land a token force here, and the real invasion was going to come from here. Now, there were heavy panzer divisions, at least 2 to 6. Let me see here. You had heavy panzer divisions in reserve back here, because, like I said, they thought they were going to land here. Hitler was awoken news came of the invasion at 3 a.m. Hitler's henchmen, they were afraid to wake him up and tell him. So when he did wake up and they jacked methamphetamine in his arms, because apparently he was a meth head, he said, this is a fake. Let's wait for the real one to come. Don't move the Panzer reserves. Keep them here. Rommel said, we need to move this shit, man. We need to move it down, just in case. Because if the Americans, the British, the Canadians, the Allies, if we consolidate here, they know this is the end. And we're going to take France from them. We're going to open up a Western Front. So they need to push us back into the sea, excuse me, literally as soon as possible. We have 24 to 72 hours to consolidate this beachhead. What made Omaha Beach so much more deadly than the other beaches, as portrayed in Saving Private Ryan, and number one, Saving Private Ryan, those first 20 minutes, imagine 6, 7, 8 hours of that, because that's how it was. It wasn't a quick 20-minute breakthrough. It took about half the day to get through those lines off the beaches. But all these other beaches, Utah Beach, Sword, all these other beaches had been bombarded heavily, carpet bombed, except for Omaha, because on Omaha, because of the weather, they messed up and all their bombs dropped 10 miles behind the beach, which means that all the pillboxes, all the artillery, all the machine guns, all the troops on Omaha Beach, German troops, they were left intact. And there are anecdotal reports of guys on landing craft coming up, and they saw back here burned. It was burning, but the coast was green, had green grass on it. And he was like, oh no, look what's going to happen. Within 5 days, we landed an additional 100,000 troops. We consolidated quickly. We had to consolidate here. We sent a contingent here to cover our western flank. And then we had to set up a basic contingent here with the objective of taking Caen, which I circled here. Within 3 weeks, the Allies, the United States and Britain mainly, land almost 1 million men right here in Normandy. 100,000 vehicles, most of which were tanks, if you can imagine, 100,000 tanks, plus jeeps and supply vehicles and troop transports, and over 400,000 tons of supplies. And they liberated Paris in 12 weeks. The breakout, D-Day itself was not the beginning and the end. On D-Day, in the mornings prior to the invasion, we parachuted our airborne units in, some British airborne, I believe, and gliders. But we did miss drops, as a lot of you know. And we accidentally went all up through here. And we were confused. We confused the Germans very, very badly. So that actually kind of worked out. Kind of bittersweet. Taking Caen was hard. We tried to take Caen. We were pushed back. We carpet bombed Caen. The German army left. We carpet bombed the city. The German army moved back in. And now they had a bunch of rebel to fight in. The Band of Brothers, the miniseries, best depicts the Battle of Caen. Paris was liberated in 12 weeks. And that's the beginning of the end for Germany. So I hope this made D-Day a little bit easier, and if you can look up pictures of the Normandy invasions and the scope of the aircraft used, thousands and thousands of aircraft all in the air at the same time, moving through here, just carpet bombing everything that they can. Except, like I said, they missed Omaha. We were using dumb bombs back then. It was built 10 miles behind the lines. That's why Omaha Beach was so bloody. Like I said, we lost thousands dead. And then we set up Mulberry Harbor. So it was an English invention. That allowed us to make this basically into a deep water port in a matter of days. D-Day +1, D-Day +2, D-Day +3. We set up these long bridges out into the deep sea. That way we could unload our tanks and our vehicles. They're called Mulberry Bridges, an innovation by the British. But we did break out from Normandy, and we quickly consolidated this. It took us a little while to get to the hedgerows, but once we did, we moved south, and we started to move here with a screening force. A lot of people don't realize this, but a few days or a few weeks after Normandy, thank you, Lord, we landed another, I think, 10 to 20,000 troops in southern France. So the Germans really had their hands full. Excuse me. That's a basic explanation. I hope that makes sense. This video is probably too long. I doubt anybody will watch it. But it's something to have fun with. Alright. If you don't mind, just I'm studying to become a teacher, so just leave a comment if this is something, if you were a student and you had to go into class and you do like, I'm really not interested in this stuff, and it was presented to you in this manner. Would you find it interesting, or is it boring? I'd like to know. Please let me know. Please subscribe and please comment. Thank you.